Hey everyone, and welcome back to an even shorter summary of Silverstone in the British GT Esports Championship. That was round 4, second to last round of the series, and I'm just going to show you quickly how the standings were at this point. I got 55 points and was leading Jack McIntyre, who had 32 at the time. So I had a pretty comfortable gap of 23 points. So even in the worst case scenario, I would just lose the lead a tiny bit. But I won Brands Hatch, so I was carrying a lot of kilos in the car, and the gap turned out to be quite severe. In the end, put me 1.5 seconds down on the grid. And yeah, as we fly through the grid here, you can see there's quite a few cars before you can see BMW. In the end, was 1.5 seconds, which put me in 9th place. So this is where the race is going to start for me. And in this kind of position with that kind of gap to the leading cars, you know your chances. So I was taking it easy from here, and I really just wanted to finish. And looking at the start, that really didn't work out as I expected. So as we roll it forward here, let's go through starting procedure here. Getting quite a run, trying a bit around the outside, but not really. And then I think this is the point where we quickly have to stop the video for a second because things are unfolding in front of me, not in the best way. So there's cars already spun around on the left side there. You can see Tariq Gamil facing the wrong direction. He was just getting started in that championship and now had a bit of an issue, to say the least. Also an Aston in front of me spinning out of the way, 2 cars on the right there getting tangled up and facing the grass and the wall. So yeah, things weren't looking too great. And if you look a bit into the distance where it's still a bit blurry, there's going to be the big brother, the BMW M6, parking right in my way, and it's impossible for me to avoid it. So let's roll it forward here and yeah, just hit him, get a little punt in the back there, which brings me back up to speed, and back in the mix I can even pass a few cars back here, get around the outside on the Audi here as well, and can make it stick. So yeah, I thought, okay, maybe let's evaluate that damage. I can tell you it was quite a bit. It was a pretty nasty front-facing accident, but later down in the race I just had to forget about it. I think it cost me another half second or so on the 1 or 1.5 seconds the car was already missing. So yeah, the race wasn't going really too well up until this point, even though after the starting 9th, I ended up in 6th position. Not really too much happening here, so we'll fast forward a bit until Tariq Gamil has caught back up. So he was facing the wrong direction, but it took him only, I don't really know, like 10 laps or so to, well, not even that, it was 8 until he was back at me. So that's how much faster the Porsche was, even being spun around and having to recover and pass a few cars. 8 laps later, he was back at me and had recovered like 10 seconds or so. So I knew, yeah, he probably has a way faster car. Sooner or later, he'll go through, and yeah, the first opportunity he got, I wasn't making it too hard for him. So here you can see into the S's, he was just having so much more grip, so much more confidence, and could easily use the curbs without the car being, well, thrown around there, really. So yeah, I didn't fan it off when he got a run on the straights, and you can really see at the exit here how the weight starts to play a role, because normally the BMW is pretty strong on the straights and nobody can really attack you, but with the weight here, the Porsche just had a very easy with me to get alongside. And then, as I said, I wasn't really fighting it at that point because I knew I'd always lose that position. So I pretty much just gave it to him there to play it smart and try to not lose too much time, because I was fighting way other cars at that point in the race. So I got back to P7 then by now, and we're gonna skip a few more laps. Actually, there's a bit of a wobble, and my main task then was to not go further down the order, not have more issues. So I was trying to give the GT3s as much space, especially since we have been moving to wet weather for this race. And I found it a bit daring of the organizers, because we saw how difficult it was for some of the real drivers to adapt to the simulation, and the rain certainly didn't make it an awful lot easier. And you can see how I tried to facilitate passing here, but they're, yeah, rowing up behind me. And yeah, I always made sure to leave a bit too much space to really avoid any type of collision or being spun around and losing an awful lot of more time. It was always damage limitation here, and eventually at the end of the lap, I chose to go for the pits, which already marks somewhat the halfway point, but things should get interesting from here. So being in 7th position, going for the pit line, the braking marker just about here on the right side where the wall gets really tight, and then just about making it here to the pits with the speed limiter. And I think we should actually fast forward here a tiny bit to after the pit stop, because nothing is happening here. So leaving the pits, there's just about an Alpine coming into the frame. And I knew side by side here on that side of the road, you usually don't have much of a chance, so I let him by. Plus, additionally, I knew he still had to do his pit stop, so eventually I'll get past him. So in this situation, I just let him go and stay behind him for a bit longer. Then his pit stop came. Must have been half a lap later or so. And I was then back into 6th position. But actually, we have to look at another car here, which is the Chevy of my name colleague Niels Koch in German, the cook. And he's heading to the pits, and really I think you should take a look at the speed limit here, or how much he's carrying over the line, and that's easily above 60 or 70, and you can see he's just not finding the pit limiter there. I don't know if he didn't find the button or if the Chevy indeed doesn't have a pit limiter in 2nd gear. Some of the other GT4s have. So yeah, he was then pitting, leaving the pits, and you can see he just got the stop and go 30 seconds immediately, which in the end means again that position, and I was back in 5th place. Fast forward quite a lot actually. You can see that Tariq by now has caught up to the McLaren of Florian Hasse, another German, and he's lining himself up here in a very nice way, doing the over-under, and then just limits his space a lot. And I think Hasse just wanted to take a wider swing there, so they tangle up and eventually causes Hasse to spin there. Tariq gaining that position, there was no penalty given because yeah, it wasn't really his fault. So yeah, it was Florian Hasse then suddenly losing quite a bit of ground, but even that didn't get me anywhere near him, even though I brought 2 other guys back in the mix there, which was the KDM, and the Ginetta there is actually a lap down. So yeah, there was some chances kind of coming up with other cars having issues here in their fights and in the rain. And if we jump a little further even now to this pit stop for Florian Hasse, just in your head count the time he's really stationary. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and the car is back down, and usually it just takes longer for the car to jack up, and then it's at least a 3.2 second pit stop until you come back down. And in the end that means he did not refuel the minimum amount of 1 liter and was later given a penalty for not obeying the rules in that regard. And yeah, coming out of the last corner here, I was still in 5th position, but after the race, when Florian Hasse got his penalty, I was promoted to 4th place. And that, I think, was the absolute maximum that was possible in this race, giving me valuable 12 points here that I didn't ever think were really possible at the start of the race. So I got really, really lucky here. And that, I think, in the end had a major impact on how the championship turned out, because now I was going into the last round still with a 10-point lead on Donington, where I knew the BMW wouldn't be the worst car. In fact, one of the best. And it would put Jack McIntyre under a lot of pressure. Plus, I didn't have any kilos. Jack won the race, was carrying the maximum of 30-something kilos then on Donington, which of course kind of made me positive for this round, even though I then invested quite a bit of practice to make that work. And we'll look at Donington, how it played out in the next video. Have a good one, bye.